Afternoon, everyone. It is Thursday. See how smart I am? The 13th of March. It's the regularly scheduled meeting of the Palm Springs Public Arts Commission.
Thank you.
I have a call to order. Ms. Paula,
You call it to order, I don't.
we're now meeting. Roll call.
But thank you.
Roll
You
call.
want, okay. Commissioner Wiegand?
Here.
Commissioner Heller?
Here.
Commissioner Hostrop? Commissioner Arterberry?
Here.
Commissioner Holly?
Here.
And Chair Cohen?
Here.
Commissioner Wick will be late today.
The posting of the minutes.
The agenda was posted at City Hall on March 7th.
Call for approval of the minutes. Any questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I see some public. Comments from the public. You look like public.
Visiting.
You're just here to be stunned by our brilliance, I know. Well, welcome to all of you. I think it's time to move on to legislative action. First on the list are the city entry signs. And we've had, just to bring you all up to date, out in the general public and those of you in attendance, we've had an ongoing study of the entry signage. This has been going on for about 2 years. We had a blue ribbon committee that we convened to study the current entry signs. And the entry signs include also directional markers throughout the city. The entry signs include the north end, where the large entry sign is now, the south end, which doesn't exist at the moment because they put in some new sewage facilities, which is at Gene Autry and South Palm Canyon, and then 2 additional signs, or actually 3, for Gene Autry, Indian, and Ramon coming into the city. We studied it for a long time. We had a call for artists. We had international submissions. We couldn't come up with a definitive answer from the Blue Ribbon Committee. We awarded some prizes for what we thought were the best entries as a committee and as a commission, and then we moved on. And we had calls for resubmissions from local art groups and from architects, etc., and narrowed it down to 5, and then had presentations to the commission from those 5, and from those 5 selected the winning candidate, which you can see presented on the easels around the room. And these include both the main entry signs plus an example of the markers, in this case, the airport and the post office over on the right-hand side on that easel, and a parking and park facility at the north end, which is just north of Tramway Road. Since that time, some very different and interesting things have taken place, and I'm going to turn this over to John Raymond, who will explain to you some of the things that have affected and impacted our decisions to move forward with this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My understanding of this, coming into this process quite late, like only in the last month, is that I think the commission went through the process of selecting the design, and then there was not a lot of push, I think, on the part of the city to implement any of this, and it was kind of not real clear as to who's going to pay for all of these signs. Was it arts? Was this going to be part of the the basic city design and to be carried forward? We have an opportunity now with the purchase of the Tramway gas station and the work that we're doing now on converting that to the visitor center to take a look at. I mean, it would be a good opportunity to at least take a look at doing the first one, which is the main visitor entry sign at Palm Canyon and near Tramway Road. And I believe that's the main design there in the white on black. And my understanding of it is that we don't have, the process, the selection process or the going forward process kind of ground to a halt, so we don't have cost estimates or any of that. I think what we'd like the commission to consider is authorizing us to have the designers cost that out so that we would have an understanding of what that would cost to go forward with that. Maybe we could have them cost out the other features as well. But primarily the city entry, the main city entryway sign there, so that we could, if the commission chose to go forward with it as an arts project, we could keep that on the same time schedule and same track as the conversion of the nearby building into the visitor center, and both pieces, the building and the entryway sign, could come online at the same time. Because there's an opportunity with some of the graphics on the visitor center to incorporate very similar graphics, perhaps even some of the same graphics as would be on the entryway sign with the building identity, and use perhaps some of these sorts of features there for internally, so it becomes part of a larger kind of visitor campus. A lot of people stop and have their picture taken with the current sign. It's kind of a little tourist feature all by itself, and what we're looking at is a way of connecting through a pedestrian connection the visitor center, at the Tramway gas station and the sign. They're I don't know, 100 yards apart or something like that. So I guess what we're asking is that if it's something that you'd like us to take a look at, that we proceed in having the designers come back to us with the cost estimate on what it would be, so that we could bring it back to you, and you could decide to either go forward with it, or if it's too expensive, to not go forward with it, and just leave the remaining or the current signage in place.
One of the things that when we found out about the tramway purchase, one of the things that we'd like to do, this was all on the cuff. Everything that was done here was done by the designers at no cost to us. And one of the things that we felt good about the fact that some of the design elements that ended up being approved by us were done without us having ever seen what was done at the airport. And there are a lot of similarities between the feelings of this and the feeling of what was done at the airport along Ramon and along Gene Autry. And it gave us a good feeling. Some of these markers we like very much. What we'd like to do at this point is go back to them with your input on this too, and maybe revisit the whole project, giving them the input of saying the tramway is now part of this whole picture, and maybe incorporate the whole thing into one mass. Because we also understand there's a possibility of another building or another addition to the tramway in the back part of it. One of the things we tried to preserve, if you look over to the very far left where you see the green and the trees, and if you look even at the black and white, was to preserve that photo opportunity of being able to pull up and have the mountains and the trees and the greenery. What you don't see here is in front where the girl is standing in the sketch, there's a water feature in front of that, so that you can bring all this photo opportunity into this existing situation, which is such a famous photo. And we want that to continue. We also would like to be able to use the tramway, which is not used as much and can offer that opportunity. So we'd like to be able to say to them, if this works out for you guys, we don't know what you plan to use to do with the tramway, is to say to our designers, let's see if we can't incorporate the whole thing. maybe this in some way can also bring the tramway into it. Maybe this could be pushed a little to the right, a little to the left. Or maybe it just needs to be two completely separate things. But I'd like to put the whole thing back on the table again and see where it goes from there. What do you think of that?
Well, I'm not on the commission.
No, no, no.
Leo,
But you've got this other little package in your pocket, which is the tramway.
Yeah, that's true. And you know, if you were ever going to look at doing this, the time, there's not a better time. You know, when the whole master plan of the whole area is now being put down on paper, and yeah, it would really make a lot of sense. I mean, you could decide in the end that there were a lot of votes for status quo, and you know, maybe we'll just stay with the status quo. But if you're gonna look at it, and you did undertake a process to get to this point, as long as we're designing and constructing and you know, going forward with the you know, with the adjacent property, you might as well take the opportunity to at least figure out what it would cost.
Our bow to status quo, by the way, was keeping the lettering in the same feeling as what exists now. What we tried to do was to make it even more significantly contemporized and speak more towards the mid-century modern that exists throughout Palm Springs, which we talk about the museum as having a major tour again in April. And we felt that this kind of design speaks more towards the gas station and towards the Fray and towards the Stuart Williams and so on and so on and so on, the Cody things, than what exists there now. But still keeping that feeling through the lettering, which just happened. It wasn't an on-purpose design. Tracy?
yeah, question, because it's new to me. I mean, I think the design's actually, it's fabulous. I think it's really great looking. The question that I have is, just to bring me up to speed, are you taught this design that you have here, is this at the original site, that little area of land?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, and is the question to link that to the tramway gas station with a crosswalk across Tram Road?
We don't know.
Well, it's not across Tram Road.
No,
It,
no.
No.
Is it not, it's
North
not
of-
on,
It's north of the tramway.
It's where it is right now.
That's north of the tramway station.
oh, it's not, oh, I got it backwards,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
It's just north of the tramway
So you
station.
incorporate that, it would stay
Yeah.
where it is, and then just try to
Yeah.
tie it
Maybe
in,
it's a-
or
maybe-
move it into where the,
Maybe it's a park. Maybe it's a park connection.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something that
no,
would-
we don't own we don't even own the land that this is on. It's owned by
Correct.
the Nichols family on a license to the city. We can't presume too much in terms of connection, you know, unless we were to acquire the parcel. And it's a whole L-shaped piece that goes around the tramway gas station. But for the purposes of the my understanding anyway, for the purposes of the sign, you're just, you know, using the same footprint, the same land you're using now for the same purpose. And my understanding is that's okay. So it's the other side. The other side of the project will have to, you know, work on the linkage between the building. That we're not, you know, asking you to look at that. We're looking at that from the gas station side.
There would be an assumption, at least on my part, that, and I could be just yelling at the breeze, that wall would come down, because that was sort of a surprise and I think a necessary thing when it was a gallery. But it wouldn't be a necessary thing because it does block the architectural part of that gas station. So that in itself would cause a linkage to be
Sure.
reconfirmed.
So are we looking to, I'm sorry, are we looking to then get a price from the designer for the original design in the original place, and also a proposal for what he would do with it if we were to move it and make it part of this other project?
I think we could go back to them and say that.
Okay.
Do you want to do this independently, give us a price? Because they were hesitant to do that because they said, look, we've spent so much time on this free. If you're really serious about doing this, we'll be glad to. But how about let's go out in the real world and let's treat this as a purchase, and we'll treat it that way, and we'll work for you. And then at the same time say, here, let's sit down and let's talk about the fact that this is now the new surprise. We own the gas station, I'm sure they know. And would you be interested in being part of this project? And can we put the whole thing together?
Well, I wonder about keeping the site we have. There's a big open space between where the sign is and where the gas station is, a big open space of desert. I mean, it looks like that sign is just plopped down there. And I don't see putting more money into the space we have when it's not related to the, I keep calling it the gas station, that the city now owns. It should be moved so it's an integral part of that. And secondly, I don't remember anything in the original charge about the Arts Commission funding anything to do with the sign. We were to do the competition and get interested designers working
Right.
on it and so on, but there was nothing about the funding coming out of our little
Our meager sum.
our meager sum that we have.
what she meant to
So
say.
that bothers me.
See, I wasn't here then.
Oh, cop out. It also, that location, because those, and I think you remember this, Beth, when we took our tour, you and Harry and I, and we went driving around, and that location of where the sign is now is, you stumble onto it because it's recessed. On, when you come in on 111, you're coming around a curve,
And then there it
and the
is.
sign is back here. It's just naturally back here. And you're actually upon the sign before you see it. So if the sign were, for any reason, if we could move it back, if we could move it south at all, it would be to our advantage, because you have more of an approach. The sign would show to better advantage. And it would be closer to the new hospitality center.
I would hate to see.
I just renamed the gas station.
I would hate to see the sign moved because I think that the oasis behind it is absolutely
Fine.
gorgeous.
That's fine.
And I'd hate to see that destroyed. It's,
Well, it can be enhanced, actually, if we wanted to.
I don't know how much more you can enhance it. It's incredibly
Well,
beautiful.
we'll go out and plant some new.
You mean between the sign and the gas station?
Yes.
The oasis, yeah, behind it with the palm trees and all the plantings.
Oh, well,
No, she doesn't mean
no, I
that.
don't mean to destroy that. That would have to be moved and
Oh,
incorporated
no,
in
no.
the.
She's
I
talking
mean,
about the space between those palm trees.
That
and-
desert-like.
I
and
know,
the
you're
visitor
talking
center.
about the lot that's between the
Visitor
visitor
center.
center
Right.
and the sign. And I don't see any problem having it isolated from the visitor center, because that gives them enough land, if they should happen to want to buy it, to increase the visitor center, because I really think that at some point that's going to have to be enlarged. It's not going to be big enough. And I just hate to see all of those beautiful palms and
Would
plants.
they be
and-
moved? We'd keep them as part, that's
Okay.
part of the
It's
design.
only money.
Yeah, I think that could be worked out. I don't think any of us, and we're certainly not designers, I don't think we're talking about plopping the sign on top of the visitor center. I think what we're saying is incorporating it so it looks like a one.
The
You know,
whole
so-
thing, the
yeah.
whole thing moved.
Yes.
Well, are you moving it or not? You're incorporating it. To me, incorporating it means you're pushing it back and practically attached
I
to
don't,
the visitor
I don't, no,
center.
no, I don't, I mean, if I sit,
Or are you going to, design it so that it's mid-century modern in effect, and just put that in the center where the green sign now exists, and have your pond or river or whatever you're going to have, trough of water? It's,
I think we sort of need to I think we need to let's talk about it and let the designers and the design team and discuss it and see which comes out the best. You have a very good point in not just saying, okay, let's just push it all together. I don't think, if I conveyed that, that isn't what I meant.
Well, the agreement with the family, it's Nichols family?
Yeah.
What's the agreement between that family and the city for signage on that spot? I mean, was it on a set term time limit or anything like that? Is it running out, or?
I think it's, relatively informal. I mean, it's, it goes back quite a ways.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I haven't looked at it. I don't know if there's an actual document. So, tell you what, we'll talk to the designers, we'll investigate the land issue. My understanding of that design is that oasis is the existing oasis. And it would make a lot of sense.
That's
Oh, it is.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the
Oh, it
way
is.
it
We
was
had no
presented to
intention of
us.
destroying that.
So, and we'll come back next month with a more information and report. We just didn't want to go forward and spend a lot of time on that if there was, no interest on the part of the commission.
What about the funding?
Yes.
Well, we'll talk about that. It'd be nice to know how much we're talking about.
Well,
And,
and didn't we spend a little bit of money initially? The last time round, I know that the first round, we didn't pay for anything, but I know the last time round, we paid all three designers.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was not a large amount of money.
Right, but I would think.
Very minimal.
I would think just going back to ask what the cost would be of exploring this would be to their best interest though, anyway, wouldn't it?
Shouldn't the person who's working on the hospitality center, gas station, whatever, the architect, be consulted about the whole thing
They
too?
have the plans. Actually, there's some overlap in design teams.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Oh, is
So,
there?
yeah.
I was going to ask that.
So they're all familiar. One is familiar with the other, and
Can I ask it, and maybe you can't answer this, is there a feeling of reception towards this on the part of the visitor center? Or do they think this is just absolutely unacceptable?
no, there's a desire to, when you stand at the visitor center site and you sort of look over there's a desire to try to get people back and forth. Because both the visitor center, the building presents good photo opportunities, looking up the
Yes.
canyon, but the actual better photo opportunity is at the sign. And people, currently, because it's not a visitor center yet, people aren't stopping there unless they want to jump the wall and, they're the modern architect buffs. But people do stop at the sign. So, we're sort of looking at how to bring the two together. But you do have to traverse, it's a couple hundred feet
Between.
from
Is-
one to the other.
Long walk.
Is that owned by the Nichols also?
Yes.
That piece of property?
Right,
Between
Okay.
the two?
yeah.
Okay.
So,
But it could be something as simple as in-feeling walkways. In other words, something that makes it simple to just be able to traverse the area. You know what I'm saying? Natural.
I see a lovely
Paths.
park.
Yeah,
It-
well, that's what
Park would be
I mean.
nice.
Yeah,
It may-
but so that it's easy for you to realize that you
So-
can walk through there.
we'll come back next month with quite a bit more
But
information.
you can see that our desire was to maintain that because the trees stay where they are and everything else is low. And if you see in the black and white sketch, the mountains are there.
Right.
And the purpose of that was to maintain photo opportunities.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I'd like to say 3 of us visited the sign 2 days ago, and we were very impressed with how clean it was. The whole area was pristine, the grass was cut just right, there was no trash around. It was very, very
It's,
nice
you know,
in there.
Green.
It's maintained by the city, and they do
They did a very
do a
good job.
They knew you were coming.
They're tough critics.
Yeah.
Any other comments? So our next move is to hear from you as to how you want us to proceed with this, because we'd really like to see this come to fruition. And then to go forward also with the city signage throughout the city. Next on the agenda is the Chihuly Airport artwork. We have a meeting for installation purposes this Monday at 1 o'clock with the cases are being installed on the, I'll let you
March
fill in.
26th, so 2 weeks from yesterday.
2 weeks. Yeah.
But we're having a meeting with the key people from the airport and the people that are installing. The new cases will be installed as a retrofit for the two Chihuli's that are there now, and then the new cases will be in place with the last two Chihuli's on the 26th.
Okay.
And
I think the artwork arrives shortly after. I'm not sure of the date that the actual stuff gets shipped down from Chihuly.
our final piece for contribution, as far as outside contributions, the final 5,000 that we needed to complete has been received. We received the check. There are a few outstanding pledges that will be paid off this week that have been promised, and that'll bring us up to, what's our,
We still need 16,000.
we're 16,175.
16,175.
Short of the total amount that we need. We have a couple of suggestions. The letters to the Hotel Association members have gone out. They went out in 2 installments asking for support. We have been inundated with answers.
Absolutely none, except the ones that were returned in the mail.
And we have a feeling those people were not interested. So we had no response. We had a very, very good suggestion I did on the phone today, which I won't repeat yet because we want to sort of follow up on it in a very quiet way. But a pretty good suggestion that we want to attack on a very simple, quiet way with one group. And if we can pull that off, it may solve our problem. If not, then we need to go forward. We're taking the balance out to finish paying off the Chihuly people in 2 more installments. We paid 50. We will now pay another 50, and then the final 50 when the full project is accepted. So they will not be delayed at all in their payment. But that 16,175 will come out of our funds until we raise the last little segment that we owe. But we will either do it privately with one swoop, or we will have one more fundraiser. And hopefully that will make up the balance.
Are we thinking of postponing any sort of a dedication
Until
or
next
something
season.
until next season? It's too
Absolutely.
late this year to
Absolutely.
plan.
Well, first of all, even if we could, it's almost impossible to get on a calendar at this point in time, because we're just fighting with other charities and philanthropies to even pick a time. You'd have to pick Tuesday night at midnight in order to clear something.
Okay.
So we'd be much better off doing it then. Other comments? Is there anything we need to? Okay. Sunrise Place. I don't think anybody's come to re-request or present anything new on that. You all have copies of page 11 and 12 on our city ordinance. I've gone over those pages carefully, and also page 5, if you want to look at the arts ordinance. There really is a process for doing this when what essentially is being asked for is an art in lieu instead of, and a refund of fees. And that has not actually been done. So until that is done, or a request to do so, we're sort of just not going to make any decisions. That has to come from the developers. The developers are going to have to say to us, we want to do this, and here's what you have to do. You have to do the following things. And there is a form you have to fill out. You have to get an estimate from professional artists as to, or professional people as to what the value of the artwork that you are submitting. We'll get a definite interpretation of what the clauses in the ordinance say, because there's a little bit of contradiction in there. It says it must be an original piece of art, and yet there's another section in there that says it can be a copy,
Limited edition.
a limited edition. But I believe the limited edition is in the section that the commission does, not an in lieu piece of art done by an individual on a piece of property, on private property. So we'll get a definite interpretation of that. But the ball is really in their court. This has been done in a very somewhat informal way, just like this is what we want to do, but the right procedure has not been, JR and I have discussed this prior to the meeting, and the right procedure has not been followed yet. So we really have nothing to vote on until they follow the correct procedures. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, no, just that we'll send Mr. Lundin a letter that kind of outlines what he needs to do, along with a copy of the application, and to have him, and it's not to be bureaucratic, but I think, just my first viewing of this was last month, and I think it's like there's not enough information to really decide that we want to do this and go forward, and so the process, I think, contemplates that. And so it asks for things like an independent appraisal of the value. So are you getting what, and then it asks for the, what is it called, maintenance factors required to ensure its permanence. The permanence of what was proposed is a big issue. I mean, he's talking about things that are going to last 5 years. I think the ordinance requires that there's something that lasts for 30 years. So you have to have a program that, would require that every 5 years, so 6 times, it would be reproduced and put back out there. And so I think it's not exactly, pardon the pun, but back to the drawing board. But I think we have to go back to square one and have them go through that with those additional pieces of information that you don't have right now.
There's also one prevailing factor, and that is that you have to like it. No, and I'm not being
Yeah.
funny.
I know.
If you're going to put something up, you don't want something that you don't like to last for 40 years, and you have to like it, and you need to have a choice. So if this is one thing that's being presented, it has to be something that we really want to have up there. I mean, I think about the agonies that we've gone through on other things, such as Demuth Park and so on and so forth. We want to make sure it's the right thing for that corner. The interpretation of doing a presentation of mid-century art in a public place, explaining it in front of a mid-century modern piece of architecture, I think is a very noble idea. I just think it's got to be the right thing. Tracy?
Are we going to give the builder, the gentleman, are we going to give him any guidelines, assistance? I mean, we've met on this, 3 times, discussed it, looked at images. I mean, now we're going to say, here's the application and start from space one. I mean, the idea that we even had a subcommittee on it, and it came back to longevity issue, and it looks as though that these pages right here are reinforcing that longevity and also original artwork. I think that the time that's been spent on it, that we should help the gentleman and explain it to him. This is what you're going up against. If this is going to be the program, because I think in the idea of what they were doing with the covering and artwork on display, it seemed that the commission was pretty comfortable with that. I think where we ran into a problem, if I interpret it properly, is where it came into a longevity point. And that's when we started talking about etched stone, because it's an architectural design, and putting, because let's face it, let's not revisit this thing every, I don't want to be in a situation that, oh my gosh, it's 5 years and things are deteriorating. Who's the new owner of the property? Oh, by the way, why go there when you don't have to?
Well, and I think that was what a lot of us expressed the last time, but there was also the issue of the value, because we really wanted to know what would the amount of dollars have been if it was something that was going to go to the commission and have us do a project versus what was the value we're getting for these pieces. I think we all liked conceptually what they wanted to do, but whether that's an appropriate public arts project is the issue. And that was really, I think, where we were all having problems with the
Well-
longevity and the value.
We've never been faced with trying to do a project, because we talked about this too. There's no place that we've ever tried to put original painted artwork in a public outdoor place, because we know better. You can't do it, not in this weather, not in this valley, not unprotected. I don't care if you put it under, well, you could put it under stainless steel and then nobody can see it. But we've never done this before, and there's a reason for it. You can't do it. So therefore, you have a Tony Berlant, but it's inside a building. We have a mural, but that's done in a process that is lasting, and then you have to keep repairing it and so on. We also need a clarification on the ordinance itself, because there is one conflicting thing, and I need it, my feeble brain sometimes doesn't work well enough, because one place it says very clearly it must be original art. And in another place it says you can have a one limited single edition copy of an original piece of art. And I need that very clearly.
Yeah, but
Even
who
if you had that, how would it last? I mean, even if it allowed you to have a copy, we still have the problem of the maintenance and whether it's
No,
going to
and then
last out there in
that
the
would
elements.
in itself mean that that piece would then have to be reproduced again, according to what he said, every 5 years.
Yeah, and my other problem that I had is that I felt very, for where we're going with the Commission in Public Arts, to end up with a giclée, numbered giclée.
He doesn't want
with
a
the
giclée.
artist holding the originals.
That's right.
What real value do we have, even if you get the digital disc, that we can make a reproduction again, right? Now all of a sudden we're in the publishing business. Now if he's, the artist is running off giclées, and we have number 1 of 50, and he runs number 2 through 48, and we don't know about it, what's the number that in 5 years that we run off? Are we running off number 49? Or are we running off number 2 because we think we have number 1? And I mean, it could just, the whole thing can get to be just kind of crazy.
And the only giclée that we have, there's a reason for it, and that is as a directional piece to send people to the original. And that's the Joshua Tree pieces in the Continental lobby, to send them upstairs because they can't just go upstairs willy-nilly. So there's a reason. And they're also
They're
inside.
inside.
But they are giclées, but they're there. We own the original. Well, we don't own it, but we rent them on a long-term basis. And those are just there to direct people.
And then you'd also have copyright. I mean, I could see where everything could come in. You have, who's got the copyright on it? If the artist holding the originals, and we have the discs.
I just think I think we need to ask, maybe there's something else, because I take what you say very seriously. We have a lot of problems with what you're doing, and we need to tell you right up front.
Well,
We already have.
Well, in so many words.
one clarification on the art in lieu, the property owner does own the artwork. It's just, on a sculpture or something like that. So if they put the art in, they own it, they have to maintain it. The problem here is more of a technological problem, which is that he can own it, and if he could put it out there and own it, that's one thing. But what you're doing is you're saying he's going to own it, and then he's going to put reproductions out there, and then you get in the problem that you were just talking about. Is it number 2? Is it number 50? And that sort of thing. And
So what you're saying is that if the developer gets the approval in lieu of the fees to Public Arts, the artwork remains,
Oh, he owns it.
he owns the artwork. So it's different than any other artwork that the Public Arts Commission has, where we can move things around and do
But he
that.
also then needs to show that piece of art, according to
Yeah.
the ordinance.
see, that's the problem. If it were, think about it, if it were a sculpture.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he says, I'm going to do a sculpture, and I'm going to put it out there right at the corner.
Sonny Bono's
And
fountain.
Sonny
Yeah,
Bono's
that's-
fountain.
that's all right.
And, or I'm going to commission a sculpture, and there it goes. Well, he owns that. He's responsible for maintaining it. I believe you have a maintenance agreement that allows it, if it falls in the disrepair or something, you have right to enter to maintain. But what you have with a painting is that like the chairman said, you can't really put it out there. You have to put a reproduction of it out there. So where's the original? So he may own the original, or he may sell the original. He doesn't need to own it anymore because he's got it on a disc, and he's just going to run copies off on a disc, in 5 years anyway. So you start to deviate from, what the intent was. And I think it was, excuse me, I think the ordinance was written with sculpture in mind, or an installation piece, or something like the Time Warner piece. Somebody puts a little installation in there, and yeah, they're the owner of it, and there it is. It's not going anywhere, and it's something that the piece itself is what's out there on display. When you start to move off that into reproductions that only have a life of 5 years, then you start to get away from what the intent of the ordinance was. And so I think what we'll do is send a clarifying, excuse me, clarifying letter with the application, have them come back through the application process, and the application will require things like an independent appraisal, and not just his own estimate of what he thinks it would sell for, but an appraisal. And then because the issue was value and longevity, and then the
And
plan
originality.
and originality.
Yeah,
And
or
how
we
to-
can, we can even send the gentleman
Yeah.
copies of the minutes pertaining to this one
Yeah.
discussion, so that he's up to speed and understands which way the commission's going.
Well, we can send him actually
Yeah.
the clauses from the ordinance that pertain to this.
Yeah.
But,
So do you send it to the artist or you just send it to the developer?
well, he is the
Well-
No,
same.
The family.
No.
is-
Yeah.
It's the same family,
The
but
family.
I think,
But normally,
send
I
it-
think we would do it to the developer, because it's the developer that's applying
that's
for the art in
responsible.
lieu, not the artist.
we'll send it to the developer.
But we also have one other thing that we could do, and we might as well face it to begin with. What's the alternative? If we set up all these roadblocks, my first question, if somebody sent me that, would be, well, then what do you want me to do?
I'd
What do
tell
we
him
want me to
put
do?
it on stone.
Well, okay, but that's my question. What do you want me to do? I'm the artist.
It can be etched
I
on
work,
stone.
but I work in paint and I work in colors. What do you want me to do with this? How do you want me to do this? I don't know that he paints on stone.
But he does the design, he can have someone, it's just like a gravestone. You tell the man what you want done. And, I mean, he designs
But I think
it.
we need to present
Yeah,
him with,
Because I think that would be very, very nice, to have something etched on some lovely stone there.
what,
That goes
A
with
marble?
whatever the buildings are.
but I think we need, I think
Because-
we owe him that kind of suggestion.
When you look at the tiles on the bank on Ramon in Indian, something like that on a bigger scale would be magnificent. But of course, he may not have that much money in the budget. But that, to me, would be a nice example of reproducing the mid-century modern buildings that are, the designs that are incorporated in that project on some sort of stone, I think would be beautiful, or even on tiles would be beautiful.
Or mosaic.
Yeah. There's a
So
lot of alternatives.
can we not put that in our suggestion? Just give him some suggestions, because I think I have a feeling he'll just throw up his hands. And if he does, then it's up to us, which is okay too. Then we'll go out and call for artists and come up
Sure.
with something. Any other
Sure.
comments on this? We just want to do the right thing.
Yeah, and I feel we should help in every way that we can. Like you said, I don't want to, poo-poo the whole thing. It's just the fact to do it right and get it over with and move on. That's my concern with it. But I think it's a great idea in principle. I think it was great. And the sandblasted stone, taking granite, sandblasting, because it's an architectural design, which would lend itself really great to stone etching. And you could even have the old shopping center in there. Have a little wording underneath.
That would please a group of people.
We must remember this is a prime location, so it has to be stunning. And I don't think those paintings are stunning at all. They don't fit the project.
It also, which I've maintained all along, yes, people that are shopping in there will perhaps walk around and people having a drink or a sandwich. But it also could be a very eye-catching thing because most of that is traffic driving by. And it would be a very eye-catching thing to have a very strong presentation on that corner as the thousands of cars that go by there every day. That's also the center across the street, the senior center, asked for a very strong art piece. Not that people walk by, but people would see it as they drive by. Okay, budget status, Mr. Raymond.
I believe, let me see.
We all got this?
That's right. At your place is the actual department expenditure status, and this is what we receive every month, and it tracks the expenditures of the budget. The obviously the budget is in the far left column, not the far left column, but budget, and then what we've spent in that month, any outstanding encumbrances, if we've committed to spending money. To use the example, I think the $2,034 was for the cleaning of the wands at Francis Stevenson. And
Where are we?
Under
Oh,
period
okay.
expenditures.
under
and then
encumbrances outstanding.
Encumbrances outstanding.
Okay, go down fairly far down, and you see 2,034. That's
Okay.
the work's already been done. We haven't paid it yet, so that's encumbered.
Is that the, oh, that's the
The
total.
work
Yeah.
has been done, though. I went by there
The work
today, and
has
it
been
looks
done.
quite
Looks
nice.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Looks
Yeah,
wonderful.
The wands look new.
it's not perfect, but it's a
No,
lot better.
it looks a lot better.
Yes, okay.
So, and then you have the year-to-date encumbrances plus all of the expenditures, and then, you know, what's remaining in the budget.
What is specialized equipment?
Specialized equipment is your arts, basically your arts acquisition budget. That's what, for whatever reason, that's what the city calls your art budget. Now, that's sort of like, in redevelopment, we would call it unscheduled capital projects. It's not a specific project. When you see like Airport Chihuly, that's identified. There's a cost attached to that, so it gets called out as its own line item.
So that item, that's the amount that we have that we could still spend before the end of the fiscal? Is that,
You have
before the end of June?
$29,000 in there.
Yeah, you have 29,000.
says
Left.
30,006, oh, okay,
The
I see, 29.
$30,675 is the money that's encumbered right now for the I-10 corridor project.
That's right.
That money was
Okay.
set aside for the,
We haven't
Is
sent
that for the
to them.
design?
no,
Right.
it's sitting in a fund already encumbered and
But we owe it.
designated
Yeah, that
money.
was for the
Right.
design, right?
Right.
Okay.
That's
Right.
right. With Parsons.
So the balance is the
Bickerhoff.
29,613
That's right.
No.
Right,
Right.
yes,
under specialized equipment.
yes.
Right.
29,613.
And we have 125 under acquisitions or public works.
Hmm.
So the total still available is the 125,687.
When you
But-
break down
but-
those three line items, but see, you have,
Most of that makes up the regular expenses, though. Looks like personnel.
Yeah,
and-
that's,
yeah.
right,
it's everything below personnel costs.
So it's a spendable money, it's the 29,000.
Right.
And that's through June? That's before our new fiscal?
mhm.
Okay.
Right.
Um,
Now, we're still working on the fund balance issue, and we've gone to finance, and I wrote it down, and then Paula wrote it down, and I think we got different fund balances as of different dates.
He can't read my
So-
handwriting.
Well, I
I
can't
tricked him.
follow her logic. I can read the handwriting,
Where is that?
so it's not on here.
Oh.
No, okay.
So, but that's a separate calculation, because it's, this is, this is the budget for this year. This is what gets appropriated. But because public art is a fund of the city, it's not part of the general fund. It, anything that's, unexpended, this year goes back into the fund and accumulates. So, or if you have a year, that for some reason you have a large project, if you have money in the fund, you can, spend you'd have to go appropriate it, but you would be able to, say, overspend in a given year. And so we'll have it next month as actually what the fund balance is, and we'll set it up the way we do with redevelopment, which is the fund balance as of the beginning of the year, and then your revenue in, all of your expenditures, and then you have an estimated fund balance at the end of the fiscal year.
This is what
So-
Lori and I
Okay.
would like to talk to you.
Yeah.
Where is the interest that we accumulate?
Well, that wouldn't be, this is only expenditures.
Okay, just explain.
So this is not the,
The interest.
yeah, this is not the interest.
I
in-
think though, JR, is on that sheet. I did write that down.
Right.
The interest income for the year, it's like 2,000 or something.
$2,632.
That's it.
At 1.1%.
Yeah.
1.1.
And then the
Budget.
situation coming up into June, the monies that the Public Arts Commission gets depend on the permits that are issued, correct? So we don't get anything out of general fund. It just
No.
can't say,
We
oh,
have our
no,
own
no.
fund.
yeah. So it's not like, oh boy, June's here, July's here comes this
No.
full.
No,
You don't
no,
know
no.
what you got, right?
You have what you have.
Well, you have
You
to,
have what you
You
have.
encourage your friends to
Okay.
build.
yeah.
So basically, from what we're saying here is that this 29.6 is what's in the account at this time. And if some permits came in, then that would go up. And if we spend money, it's gonna go down. So
But it goes in
No,
the
'cause
fund,
it's
no.
not the fund
no.
balance.
It goes in the
It's not a
fund,
fund
This
balance.
is the budget
Right.
balance.
budget balance.
yeah. So think of it, it's two different things. The fund is the big pool. And at the beginning of the year, you take money out of the big pool and you put it in the small pool, and that's your budget.
Okay?
And this is all you can spend this year. Now, if
For
Unless-
you, that would be a waiting
unless
pool.
there was, unless something came along, say between now and the end of the year, and it was $100,000, and you wanted to do it, what you would do when you go forward with the project is you do a budget resolution that asks the council to appropriate additional money from the fund balance, take it out of the bigger pool and put it in the budget, and then you do a budget amendment. And then, so you would
So it
add
doesn't affect
100,000 to this. But, even though the Arts Fund relies on development fees, you have to estimate at the beginning of the year, what that's gonna be, and then you set your budget for that year.
Do you have
And
any idea what's in the big pond, the big pool, the big?
Couple $100 million.
Well, I do, but I don't know if it's the beginning of the year balance. I don't know if it's an interim balance, and so we can talk to you afterward.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Has any money come
you still
in
don't
from
get
the
those money.
London project as yet?
London.
Yes, the London. That's Sunrise.
Yeah, you
Lundin.
got
Yeah.
copies of it in your handouts today.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
actually,
All right.
There's
Yeah.
two, and I think they
There's
amount
two.
to about 21,748 at this moment.
Wait a
It's
minute.
only Ralph's and Save-On.
What's Albertson?
Okay.
So that would be the amount.
Ralph's and Save-On.
What?
No, you gave
Well,
us.
Albertson's-
Okay,
Albertsons owns Save-On,
Oh,
Okay.
so they own Save-On.
So John, the 21,748
You
is,
see there
it was
where the
what,
public art fee is listed at the bottom?
Okay.
Okay.
I see, yeah.
so that's what would go in the fund if they weren't doing their own project?
No, that's
Basically?
going in
That's
the
what goes in
fund.
the fund, that's what would be
and then we
reimbursed to
give them a
them once
refund
they do their
if they do
project.
an art in lieu.
Right.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
This
what I was
is,
wondering.
As long as the program allocation is the same, right, JR? This is the
Right.
program allocation, right?
That's right.
nice to
Okay.
be smart.
Good.
Thank
Well,
you.
these
So
are
that's
only
something
two
look-
of the, yeah, okay.
I'm not kidding.
Anyway. So obviously, this year you'll have some salary savings. And
Yes.
from the position of being
What's her
empty and whatever her name was. And that would go back into fund balance at the end of the year. So anything unexpended, and again,
Goes back into the
it
fund.
being not a general fund program, if, when you have a department that's funded out of the general fund, at the end of the year, the money stays in the general fund, and, which is, good for the general fund, but this way, it allows it to accumulate if you have a year where you're not expending money. So, and we will have the kind of the full fund balance for you next month.
We could be approached at, maybe at 8-10% for loan.
Is there any way to cut any of these things so that we have a little more money for art projects?
Well, you tend to, the budget is pretty much what's been expended over the, there's not something in there that's like, all of a sudden, there's a lot of money in there for something that hasn't been in the past. And,
Well, certain things like Airport Chihuly is not a recurring.
I mean,
right,
the
well,
group raised money to pay for the printing of the map. This
Right.
group. We went out and sold spaces,
Right.
and we paid for the printing of the map. We have raised close to $150,000 to buy the Chihuly. The group has raised that. And yet, when I
So
look
on
at,
your- You see the money in here where for printing and publishing, the 11,000. Okay, so the money was budgeted, and that's what's left now. The money that you raised went into the fund. This
Okay.
money was budgeted at the beginning of the year and put in here to spend on the map.
So it's not
So that's what-
reflected.
so it's not showing
You're
that
seeing
way.
$11,000 that was spent. See, it says year-to-date,
Yeah.
okay?
I'm looking at printing and publishing. Is that where you have the map?
The 11,000, right. So that money was budgeted and put into the budget for the year, and that's where we spent from. The money that you raised was put back into the fund. It went into the revenue account.
You don't see the, you don't see
we
the
don't see
offset
it
on
anywhere.
here.
This is- These are expenditures, you don't see the revenue.
You don't see how wonderful we are on this
you
sheet.
only see how it gets spent,
Right.
not
I mean,
where
this
it
is the
comes from.
only
That's right.
commission that
You
raises
see-
money,
But you
Well,
do
I
that's
think, aren't we?
Your airport
And-
Chihuly money is here.
Yeah.
This is
Okay.
what you have raised. And an account was
Okay.
set up, came into a revenue account, and then was transferred into the line item.
So
Yeah,
there is a
because it's-
separate revenue page.
Yes.
Yes,
But
sir.
Chihuly won't be on there. Well, there might be a Chihuly
Yeah.
revenue, but there's nothing in it, because now it's here.
What we'll have for you,
Where?
Down at the bottom, Airport Chihuly, 54037.
When you give us the
See all the
fund
way at the
balance,
bottom?
we'll be able to see
I
what
see
got
that,
added,
yeah.
so they
Way
can
down.
see where the fundraising is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
the way we do it when we do the redevelopment budget, redevelopment has these same sheets.
But that's
But
expenditure.
they do the whole, you have a beginning fund balance.
Encumbered.
You have, it shows the revenue in and the sources of revenue in.
that shows.
And then we have transfers in, transfers out, and that sort of thing, which you don't have here. And then the expenditures by category, in some cases are broken out. And then what you end up with at the end is the ending fund balance. So you can see if you, and that's good, well, you would know, you know if you're going up or if you're going down. Are you spending more than you're taking in? Spending less than you're taking in?
So
that
you're
sort of
working
thing.
on doing the same kind of a format for us, it's just we're moving towards that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is still a huge, this is still huge compared to what we've been getting, so, I mean, this is a big step. And once you take it to the point of doing what you just described, I think we're all gonna see, all the things that we're trying to, all
Right.
the pieces of the puzzle, all of the income and where everything's
Sure.
coming from and where we're spending it.
Which has been a total
Yeah.
puzzle for us.
Yeah,
Well,
so
and it-
thank you, John.
and
I mean,
it'll
I just
reflect like
thanked him twice.
what Leona said, which is the money raised for Chihuly, the money raised for the map. If they were in this year, that money would be reflected in kind of the fund summary sheet. And we've had discussions. I think there's a philosophical view that I happen to believe that you ought to see it. I mean,
We belong to the same philosophy.
it's, the council, the city council is who approves the budget. I mean, but you are commissioners on the commission. You ought to know what the resources are or are not available.
Makes it a little easier to make decisions when we
Right.
know what's there, so.
Yes.
When we
so
have
this will be
something to
really,
work with.
really
Yes.
helpful.
Yeah, we're not frivolous, but we like to know when we reach a certain line, and we like to know how we're doing things and how we're doing. We like to play in the big pool.
I think we should double Leo's pay.
00.
2 times.
I agree.
Okay, all in favor?
I have a question.
Gas.
Are we insuring our pieces? Is that for the insurance for the artwork that we have?
Now,
I'm
let me,
curious.
let me, explain those two charges, which is account 49,000 and 49,010. Every department of the city pays kind of a pro rata share of the city's overall blanket insurance policy. And the city carries property, do we have fine arts? Is there any fine arts in there at all? In the
Fine
city's
arts
overall?
insurance, I believe it's under the blanket insurance policy
Yeah.
for the city.
I think if a truck hit the Kauai Women, for example,
Okay.
I think
It
we
should
could
be
probably
insured.
be insured.
Yeah.
But the arts program doesn't have a separate policy that, we
It's
pay
part
the
of the
bills
blanket.
every month. It's part of the blanket policy. So this is it's a budgeting, it's a kind of a citywide budgeting thing that, the city spends, I don't know, $1 million a year or a couple $100,000 a year or something on insurance, and this is an assignment of a share of that to this fund. And the same with the administrative service charge. This pays the city for the accounting and for the, I think there's all, office, the office space and that sort of thing, the things that the city provides that don't get reflected elsewhere. And so there's a kind of a blanket charge that goes into every department. And it's just it's a cost assignment more than it is a costing in or a charge.
The line item for special department supplies is is for only the art show. Okay, the money that comes in from the fees goes into the art fund, okay,
And
and
then
there's,
it's
that money is
dispersed.
and that money is budgeted every year. So basically, it's just kind of like a little rotating thing, it's going
Wash.
into the fund and it's going, and we're.
So we have
Goes right out.
$62 left. We
Yeah,
did
have
pretty good.
Yeah, you guys saved on food, anything this
Party?
year.
Does that include having done the lighting too? So we
No, the
we
lighting
include the
came-
lighting
The
in?
lighting came out of specialized equipment.
Okay.
Okay. Haven't done any travel or training or conferences, so maybe I should start traveling
What-
before June.
Uh,
Go see what I can learn.
What else came out of specialized equipment?
Oh, I would not even, that's where most everything comes out of, so I wouldn't even be able to tell you that. off the
That's
top
an
of my head.
odd name.
Well, 30,000 of it is the I-10,
The
because
money
that's the
that's
encumbered
encumbered,
part.
30,000,
So there's
that's
about
right.
30
Can,
other thousand
But there's
for the
another
year, right.
30,000
Well, you have the 2017, which is probably the lights.
lights, probably.
Okay.
That's
But then
probably
there's
The
right.
still
bargain
an,
of the
you know,
century.
And we
About
also
30,
paid for
30,
the,
60,
the
okay,
fence
but there's
for
still,
the.
Dog
That's-
fence,
that's
the
what
dog
I-
park.
Gone.
Vouchers anytime you
Oh,
want
the
to.
fence, yeah, that was,
Part
what?
of the
You can
dog
buy
park.
the claim vouchers anytime you want to.
No,
That's
was
right.
it that high?
okay.
Yes.
I didn't think it was that much.
Yeah, it was 8,000.
So we're getting you there. I mean, this is,
It's nice.
It's a good start.
It's
I
nice
think
to
it's
have
great.
this read out. I appreciate it.
yeah. But it's, again, when we get you to the other thing, it'll probably be actually more summaries of these categories of expenditures rather than the individual line items. So,
Any
Could
other
have given them
questions?
the audit trail, but it still wouldn't tell you much.
Art acquisitions.
Comments?
That would
Oh, wait
be
a minute.
under that would be the dog park fence. Yeah.
Well, but this is,
That would
that
have come out of
wasn't,
specialized equipment. No, actually, that may have come out of maintenance.
what's the
And
dog park?
maintenance-
The extension of
The
the
extension of the dog
extension
park.
No, it
specialized
couldn't have
equipment.
been
the art
that, not
acquisitions,
maintenance.
that's a
You wouldn't
total.
have enough money.
No.
to make.
Well, we did do some
455.
repair.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was
probably
8,000.
came out of specialized
Why do
equipment.
they call it acquisition?
It's the cleaning of the sign.
Is it really?
That was at
Shouldn't be
least
called
10 or
acquisition,
15,000.
should it?
Then I want the job.
But it's
You can see how big your expenses were on the fountain.
55 budget.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
pretty shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Where,
is,
which is?
Under arts and maintenance, period expenditures for this
107,000
month
out
are
there.
4,300.
Encumbrances.
I would like
Is that
to
a total?
look into hiring somebody on a regular basis, so we didn't have to pay time and a half.
Well, we, I believe procurement and parks, and we will work with them on doing the RFP. We talked about that last month,
Right.
to see if we can get somebody out there that, on a contract,
Yeah,
and drive
we're
that
paying
cost
what,
down
at
a
the
little
end of the day? They
I
go-
think that's,
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
What?
and it's
Time
not
and a
good for
half.
that department either.
We can't find somebody else?
Well,
There
it's
must
just,
be.
what we're going to do is do an RFP to try to get a, pool company or a maintenance company out there to do it. I mean, I believe that'll lower the cost, and it'll give you the same level of maintenance that you're getting now. And
May I ask you also another question? What are the sizes of those pumps, the motors, and how much are we spending for electricity?
I have
a
no
month?
idea.
Okay.
You want us to find that out?
So I'm curious about how much electricity is going in, that we're paying out per month on that.
You pay a lot. Because I remember we did the reconciliation, because when the Palm Canyon Theater paid the first year and 3 months, I think.
And they were
Yeah, I
thrilled about
remember.
that.
They didn't realize it until,
Okay.
Who told them?
well, they figured it out.
There are no dummies over there. Okay. I'm just curious
Yeah.
about that.
Because that reconciliation was about $7,500 for like probably 15 months. So what is that, like $500 a month?
Okay.
Do those fees for maintenance and the electricity all come out of public arts, or is that?
Sure.
Hmm.
I thought
Back to the
Parks
pool.
and,
Yeah, but you know,
I thought Parks and Recreation were going to take over the fountain.
They've taken over the maintenance of it, but they're not paying for it.
Sure, but charging us.
But they're charging us the salary.
So
That's
how
what I
are
said, they're
they?
taking care of it, but they're not paying for it. We are.
Okay.
Well,
I
then-
thought they were going to pay for it.
I don't
No,
think
why
that's
would
an
they do that?
out-of-line
years ago, they
electrical charge, considering the size of the pumps and the time that the fountain runs, and knowing how much electricity I use on my house and do it frugally, I don't think that's really out of line.
Was, Margie, you were the only one here at the time the fountain was that part of the original concept, is that the fountain would be owned and the electricity and all of that would be owned by the arts?
No, the city was going to take over.
That's the
Yeah.
That's what I
right.
thought, yeah.
Yeah,
I
the
say we
city
go
was
on
going to take
strike.
over. We paid for it,
I
got it
yeah.
installed, and then they were going to assume ownership.
Well, you're part of the city
Yeah,
does own
The city does own it.
it.
Yeah,
We're
But it-
seceding.
yeah.
it's always been my understanding, and during the construction, I was sort of on the other side of, we did all that concrete,
Sure.
was that it was going to be an arts commission or an arts program expenditure to maintain and operate that.
Jerry Ogburn was going to pay for that concrete out of his downtown redevelopment.
We did.
We did.
You did,
Yeah,
okay,
And some of the lighting, too.
right.
okay,
We did the lighting, we did the
Mhm.
concrete, we did,
okay.
I thought Diane was trying to figure out whether there was something to work out in terms of the maintenance because of things like that, that maybe it didn't need to come out of the public arts. I thought at some point there was supposed to be a cutoff where it now became somebody else's responsibility on the
That's right.
maintenance side.
Mhm.
That it was our responsibility on the acquisition side, but at some point it was going to come out of someplace else, but
I
Yeah,
think it's always been our responsibility to pay for the maintenance. The problem is that right now, it's really high. You know, we did have somebody else doing it. It was costing us about $1,200 a month, but it wasn't being done properly. Now we're just expending, now it's more of a discussion topic because now our maintenance costs have gone up.
But even if we can just eliminate the overtime, we would save a lot of money.
Yeah, and it's not gonna be the easiest thing to do
Is
right
that,
now.
is that $36,000 in art maintenance, is that all of the art, or is that basically the fountain?
and
Is he on the budget
Well,
over
most
there?
of it would be the
The
fountain.
That'd be
year-to-date
the fountain.
expenditures,
It's-
the majority is gonna be that fountain.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
mostly going to be the fountain.
Yeah, because we still have to do a lot of maintenance on the other bronzes and stuff like that.
But we don't
We
do
haven't
that
done it.
much.
We haven't done
just-
anything.
Out of reality, we don't do that much on the others.
Done anything.
No,
that's
and we have a
coming up. Not really done
subcommittee
anything
report
this year.
coming up at next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. Can we hire somebody outside of the city to take care of the facility?
We're going to do an RFP, request for proposal for somebody, it'll have to be a firm, just
Mhm.
because of the insurance requirements and everything,
Bonding.
to actually, take over the maintenance of it. And once again, I think it's our hope that the contract will come in And A, they'll maintain it in a way that it needs to be maintained, and B, it'll be, at least somewhat less expensive and hopefully substantially less expensive than what we're spending now. And so we're starting that. Because it's not good for parks either. They've got a guy going out there every day, at the end of his shift. I'm sure he likes the overtime, but at a certain point, it's just not a good management practice to have
No.
somebody working overtime every day.
No.
And
Is
it's,
he doing it at the end of the shift every day?
I think it's toward the end of the shift, yeah. Or at the end of the shift.
But that gets old too, even though you're making the money.
They're doing a good job, though. It really looked nice, didn't it, when we were there Tuesday?
Well, it wasn't him that did that. They hired somebody to go in there and professionally remove the lime and the calcium deposits and everything. It's been professionally cleaned, not by the city employees, by somebody else.
I wasn't speaking about that. I meant the lawn area and the trash. Everything was nice and neat. No
Are the
one's
lights, I haven't been there for a while, are the lights on again? I mean, are the
I
light
don't know,
bulbs
'cause it was today
underneath?
at noon
Has
that I
anybody
went
been there
by.
at night? Because they have a habit of burning out quickly. Any other comments on this? We're going to be talking with Mr. Raymond about this next week. Comb it
Thank
a
you.
little finer.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yes.
5-year plan. Why did we have that on there?
Because at the last meeting, you asked me to send you the copies. That's why I sent them out in your packets.
Yeah.
Very nice
It was a
copy.
nice plan.
Very.
And
Thank
there
you
it
for
is.
the copies,
And
Paula.
Remember, I think you
It-
just wanted like the brief outline
Yeah.
that was done at the meeting,
Uh,
and then somewhere along the line, I think Diane was gonna go back in and fill in kind of the blanks, because there was a lot discussed, and basically what you have there is just an outline. There wasn't any detailed discussion,
But it's nice
but
to
you
have
still
it.
have an outline.
Oh,
Okay.
It was a
That's
very
if it's gonna
nice
stay for a
meeting,
while, too.
oh,
and the
oh,
food was quite good.
yes. May I make one correction, though? It's Nellie Kaufman, Coffman.
And her granddaughter called this week too, so we need to talk to that on the staff reports, I think.
Yes. The
So
school's
it's-
named after her, so many things.
Coffman.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
Are there any other specific comments on the 5-year plan? If not, that pretty much wraps up legislative. Any added starters?
Well, next time, the subcommittee of Margie and Beth and I would like to make a report probably about 8 to 10 of the pieces in town with recommendations.
So I put on a new agenda item, arts maintenance issues.
Yes.
I don't know what we call our subcommittee.
We call ourselves the Arts Maintenance.
Girls,
Subcommittee.
excuse me,
Oh,
girls.
I want a better name than that.
The Arts Maintenance Girls. Anything else under new added starters?
No. Wouldn't be under that.
Tracy brings up no.
I was just thinking of something else, and then it wouldn't be under an added starter.
Okay. Miss Staff?
I don't know, I've gotten quite a few calls in the last couple of weeks about people wanting to donate artwork to the city.
That's what you said.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of doing some follow-up calls, and I'm gonna be sending them the copies of the arts ordinance regarding donations. I've never handled a donation of art for the city, so it's gonna be kind of a new area, but, so I'll see how that goes.
There's pretty
Nellie
strict
Kaufman's
rules.
granddaughter was actually one of the ladies that called, and I don't know if she's gonna donate. I think actually she's calling about maybe doing a piece. So I haven't heard back from her yet, though.
Okay.
There's some pretty finite rules about that, because we would have the whole world donating.
Yes, we had our class in art ordinance this week, didn't we?
Yeah, we sure did. Long phone calls.
I don't really have anything else. I gave you a copy of this Arts a Trip to go on the train in Los Angeles to look at the artwork that's in the Metro Rail.
I've done it,
Railway.
and it's fun.
Yeah.
Is it?
I think that's all I have, unless we need to talk about any of that.
What's that?
Notes from the minutes from the last meeting.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh, maybe, wait a minute. Nope, I'm finished. Thank you.
I do have one thing to ask about. Under the hotels, I didn't see any of the inns listed in the tennis club area.
The list that I received from you, or the list that I received was exactly from the leisure center that you asked me to get. That's what we got from them. That
So
was the
they don't
entire
have-
list.
They don't have any of the inns listed?
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
all right.
I only got what that I got from
Okay.
them over the
Oh,
fax.
to help you, do you have the letter? I'll do the addressing. I have about 7 that I could send to.
I finished them. They've been sent out for over a month.
I realize that, but here again, there were some inns. Did you send to Casa Cody and?
Marjorie, I sent to everybody that was on the list that came from the leisure center. So if they're not on there, then they're not on there.
Okay, so this is what I'm saying, is that I've spoken to some of the people at the inns, they haven't received anything, and so if you have a letter, I'll be happy to address
so
an
your
envelope
list is
and send it.
complete.
My list is complete
All
and
right,
done. If
so-
you want to send it to somebody else, you
Yeah.
can have the letter to send out.
That's what I'm
Yeah, I
saying.
think that's what she
Okay.
wants. Because if they weren't in there, if none of the,
Yeah.
if none of the tennis area, those are some of the key properties
Yeah.
in the city.
No, the
There's
list
money.
was completed off, and I can give you the list I received.
Because you can
Okay.
You're
get,
welcome
you
to
can
go
get the
over it.
Orchid
You're welcome
Tree
to
and
have the letter
Casa
to send
Cody
out.
and
Okay, good.
Karakia, all of those, what do you call it, the Willows, all
Oh,
of those.
Yes, and.
I swear the Willows, I signed a Willows one. I swear I
I
did.
have copies of every letter that went out.
Yeah, you might
Okay.
want to check
And you
with,
got your
since you're
list
being
of
so
every
nice
letter
to
All
do
right, so
that.
then
Why
let me
don't you,
check,
why don't
because
you check against
I
that?
don't want to duplicate.
Okay.
Terrific.
Good.
And then you and I can follow up on your suggestion concerning that. In fact, we'll discuss that at Commissioner comments.
One comment. Are we going to be doing anything in regards to replacing, Diane, has that changed, the status changed since last
That's part of what
count?
we're going to talk about on Monday.
Okay,
So instead of just talking about it in general now, I'd like to talk with JR
You can-
first and then come back and report, rather
Okay.
than just talk about it on the air,
all right,
okay?
very good.
Other comments?
No.
Beth has a new telephone number, that's one comment.
Could you read that out loud, please?
Yeah, please tell the world.
I don't think so, she doesn't,
The reason I have a new telephone number is so that people who drive me nuts can't find me. So I'm starting over.
it's Plaza 90033. If there is nothing else on anybody, like, that's not very polite to say that. If there's nothing on any of your mind, I'll entertain your favorite move.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
So moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, one
You
and all.
don't like my notes?
Yeah.